Next, let us extend our example just a little bit. We have implemented this UI. Let's say we want to display this UI when the user is not logged in, and we want to show this UI when the user is already logged in. So here we have a header that is underlined, and we have a continue button. So let's add JSX to implement this UI also. So here we have the JSX that should be displayed to a user who is not logged in. So let me assign this JSX to a variable called not logged in JSX. So now we have assigned our existing JSX to this particular variable not logged in JSX. Let us write the JSX for this. Let me use the variable logged in JSX, and we need that to be centered. So let's use the same outer div. So I'm going to copy paste that, and our header needs to be underlined as well. So let me copy paste that as well. But instead of please log in, it should say you are logged in. So let me type that you are logged in, and below our heading we need a continue button. So let's place that. So button continue, and that should create a button for us. So now we have the JSX that should be returned when the user is not logged in, and also when the user is logged in. Let me remove this extra space over here. Let's say we have a boolean variable called is user logged in, and let's initialize it with a value of true. And at the end, let us use the ternary operator and return either not logged in JSX or logged in JSX. So let's write a return statement, return, and let's use the ternary operator based on this variable over here. So I'm going to write is user logged in and the ternary operator. And if the user is logged in, we want to return logged in JSX, else we want to return not logged in JSX. So let's type that logged in JSX, else not logged in JSX. We have implemented our new UI also. Let's go to the output. Let me close the browser tools, and it is showing the you are logged in heading with the continue button. This is because the is user logged in is true. Let's change that to false and save it, and let's go to the output. And now it is showing the please login heading, and it's asking for the username and password. Because JSX expressions are normal expressions, we are able to assign them to variables like this, not logged in JSX and logged in JSX, and also we are able to use it as part of our conditional statement using the ternary operator. We can further refactor this code by extracting this JSX into a separate component. Let's do that. So let me say function not logged in, and now I have pasted that code here, and instead of assigning that to a variable, let us return that, and let's do the same for logged in JSX as well. So I'm going to cut this over here. I'm going to create a new function called logged in. Observe the uppercase of the first letter in both logged in and not logged in, and I'm going to paste the code over here, and instead of assigning this to a variable, I'm going to return this JSX. Now we have two more function components called logged in and not logged in, and since they are in the same file, we can directly use them over here. Let me remove this extra space, and let's replace this with logged in component over here, and now I have replaced it, and let's replace this variable with not logged in component over here. So let me take that and use that over here also. Let's take a look at the output to see if it's still working. As you can see, the output is still working. Let's change the value of is user logged in to true and see if the output changes. Let's go to the output, and as you can see, the output has changed. We have three function components here: the login component, the not logged in component, and then the logged in component. And observe that we are only exporting the login component over here. So out of these three functions, only the function login, that is the login component, will be available to the code outside this file. Let us make one more change to our code. We have been hard coding this variable is user logged in to either true or false. Instead of doing that, let us pass this value as a prop to the login component. So within app.js, in the JSX for the app component, let us pass in a prop called is user logged in, and let us pass in a boolean value. Let's pass in the value true for now. And once we pass in a prop like this to the login component. This prop and any other prop that we pass will become available to the login function within the object props. So props will be an object, and in this case it will have one key value pair, with the key being is user logged in and the value being a boolean value true. Since props is an object, we can access a key within it using the dot operator. In our case, the key is user logged in, so let's use that name. So I'm going to copy that name and paste it over here. And so now is user logged in is no longer hard coded over here. Now it gets its value from props. The value that we are passing right now is true. That means the user is logged in. So let us look at the output to check if we are getting the expected output. And as you can see, we are getting the expected output. Let us change that to false over here and see if the output changes. And as you can see, the output has changed now, indicating that the user is not logged in. Let us refactor this line of code just a little bit. We can use object destructuring over here. Object destructuring is a way to make our code a little more concise. And the syntax for object destructuring is we place a curly brace at the beginning of the variable and after it as well. We are using curly braces because we are doing object destructuring. And on the right side, we have to just assign the object. What we are actually writing here is this line of code over here. And we know that props will be an object with this particular key value pair is user logged in and the value of false. So let's place that here to better understand this code. So this will actually be an object with the key value pair is user logged in and the value is false. And when we discussed object destructuring, we discussed that in such cases pattern matching will happen. So is user logged in will match with the key is user logged in over here, and because of that the variable name is user logged in will be assigned the value of false over here. And we also discussed that if the key is the same as the variable name, then we can drop the right hand side. So if we drop the right hand side, we get this, which is what we have over here. And we know that props will be an object with the key is user logged in and with a value false. So let me remove these two lines of code and let me uncomment this line of code again. As you can see, now this line of code is more concise than what we had before. We can do one more step in refining our code. Since all we are doing with props is object destructuring, we can take this destructuring expression here and replace props with the destructuring expression over here, and we can remove this line of code. So when this function login gets called with props, object destructuring will happen, pattern matching will happen, and is user logged in variable will be assigned the value of the key is user logged in, which is false over here, and this variable will be available for use in the rest of the function body, like in this return statement over here. Please remember that as props, you can pass in boolean values, integer values, floating point values, strings, objects, any expression basically. If we pass in our value with the correct data type, then writing our code for the function component login in this case becomes much easier, because we know that in this case is user logged in is a boolean variable and we can use it as such. Now let us make a change to our app.js code. In function app, we are returning only one login component over here. Let us return two login components now. So I'm going to place the brackets over here and I'm going to place brackets at the end also. And let me specify a second login component and let me specify a value of true for the prop. And we are getting red squiggly lines because JSX expressions must have one parent element. So let's place an empty tag here and let's also place a closing empty tag. Let's look at the output once. As you can see, we have both versions of our components here. Let us place a HR tag to make the distinction a little more clear. And now the distinction is a little more clear now. Let's inspect our components. So I'm going to click on components here. And as you can see here, we have our parent component, which is the app component. Then within that, we have our login component. And within that, there is a child component, which is not logged in component. And then there is a second login component, and its child is the logged in component. I would like to mention one point about this empty tag over here. Actually, this is the short form for react.fragment. So let's write react.fragment instead of the empty tag here, and let's close it using the react.fragment again. But if we go to the output, we get an error saying React is not defined. So if you use react.fragment, then make sure to import React like this, import React from React. If we use the short form of react.fragment by specifying the empty tags, then we can comment out this import React statement.